Hello! My name's Derek Bailey. I've been a wood turner now for over 40 years off and on, and taught for 8 of them. I've done quite a few videos, but I've not done any on pen making. Now there's thousands of videos showing you how to make pens by people far more talented than I am. But I'm doing it really from a point of view of making a pen on a one-off situation. Someone who has the idea, oh, I fancy making a pen, and then they look into it and see all the various aids and devices that go towards making one, and it can be quite expensive, particularly if you're only doing a one-off. Obviously, if you want to get into pen making full stop, then you start buying all the accessories, which makes production a lot faster and easier. So I'm just using a pen kit, a standard basic slimline pen kit, and adapting the pen a little bit, not conforming to the design of the kit itself. And it's all been done on the lathe, and the assembly's being done on the lathe. So I hope it helps you to perhaps go into the realms of pen making in the future and whet your appetite. Anyway, enough waffling, let's get on. I cut 2 pen blanks 22mm square, 5mm longer than the brass insert tubes. It was a bit of old burr elm I had knocking about. I made sure that the corners of the blank occupied the gaps in the chuck jaws so it would run true, assuming the blank's square, of course. I measured the tube, which is about 7mm diameter, well 6.81 to be precise, and I have a 7mm brad pointed drill, so I figured this would work okay. First mistake, I assumed that the brad point drill would automatically centre itself in the end of the pen blank. It didn't. My solution was to use the sharp point of the revolving centre in the tailstock to cause a dimple in the end of the wood, which should be central. As you can see, there's a slight wobble as the drill enters the wood, but it managed to keep reasonably centralised. I think I had just one blank where it was off centre at one end. But this is one of the problems about drilling using a standard drill. You can get specialised drills for this type of purpose, where there's less chance of the drill wandering according to the grain of the wood. But it's quite adequate, and there's enough wood left on the blank for me to turn it to a cylinder. Here I'm just roughing up the tubes to make it a better key for the adhesive, which in this case is araldite or epoxy resin glue. One of the problems with turning any wood that's a burr, you do get a lot of cracks and fissures. It's the nature of the beast because the grain's going in all sorts of directions. And as I was to find later on, there was some severe cracks which needed attention. The problem with some epoxy resin glues is that when they dry, they leave a sort of palish colour which isn't anywhere near the colour of, even though you've mixed sawdust in with it. It stands out that it's not part of the timber. So I use super glue and just spread some very, very fine sawdust over the top of it, and as you can see by comparison, it's a lot better. I'm just making a softwood dowel and tapering it so that I can use it to push the tubes into the holes in the pen blanks. It saves messing around with your fingers, especially if you're using super glue, and it gives you more chance of positioning it better. If you just use your fingers, the brass tube can end up flush with the top of the pen blank, whereas if you use this dowel, it pushes it below the pen blank. They're dead easy to make. You can make one for each type of pen kit you get. To get an even spread of the glue all over the tube, which is essential really, you don't want dry spots. I twist it in one end of the tube while I can hold it, wiggle it around a bit and then put it in the opposite end and push it through. Right, I'm just squaring up the end of the pen blank. It's better to have it slightly concave. If you can get it dead flat, great, dead square, but I do it slightly concave so that when the the front and the tail parts of the pen blanks come together, you can't see the join, hopefully. We're only talking a fraction of a millimetre concave. Don't make it too pronounced or it'll give you false distance when you start assembling the pen kit. You can get milling cutters for this operation. You want adjustable ones unfortunately, or else you have to buy one for each diameter of brass insert, which adds to the expense. Here I'm trying to get away with just using the pen kit and the lathe. The accessory purchases can come far later, especially when you're doing lots of pens and you want to speed up production. I'm just making sure that I've got a nice clean end to the pen blanks. I don't want any chippings of the burr round, which can be done quite easily on the edges, and then when the two blanks come together you can see little gaps where the chips have come off. To test this, I'd just put a milling cutter in off camera and cheated a bit, just to see if I could produce a flat finish against the remnants of the milling cutter, and I seem to have achieved that. I'm going to use a piece of scrap wood now and use it as a drive centre. The friction itself and pressure from the tailstock should be quite adequate to turn the square blank into a cylinder and fit it to the pen. Well, I thought I had a nice square end to the pen blank, but good old Elm did a backflip and left me with quite a bit of a fissure to clean up with some super glue. This super glue is medium thickness. The thin stuff would take ages to keep putting layers on. It only needs 2 or 3 layers of super glue and it fills up the gaps brilliantly. Now I've turned the blanks to cylinder, I'm just measuring the pen tip and the pen clip holder at the back and front of the pens, and measuring the diameter and hopefully produce the diameter accordingly on the pen blanks. I could have used a small screw chisel for this, but it was a bit blunt and I couldn't be bothered to go and sharpen it, and I just used my spindle gouge while it was still sharp. Once I'd turned the scrap wood as well to the desired diameter for the tip of the pen, you could use this again for a future pen and use it as a bush if you wish. Obviously you can't touch the wood too much or else you reduce its dimension, but it can act as a guide instead of buying a mandrel with loads of bushes. Usual procedure here, I'm using 120 grit up to 600 grit. The elm is quite open grain, so there's not much point in going to a finer abrasive, so I've stopped at 600. I'm not using Yorkshire grit here either because of all the little pockets where the paste can get into. Then it's a matter of 1 quart of sanding sealer and 4 to 5 quarts of melamine. It's something that's going to be used. Some pen experts use super glue itself to finish, but you need a fine one. I haven't got a fine one on me, so I'll just have to make do with melamine. It gives a nice sheen, not an over glossy sheen. I don't like a lot of gloss anyway. It looks like plastic. I prefer a natural sheen, and melamine gives me that. In my opinion, there is an advantage of turning the pen blanks between centres like this, i.e. using scrap wood as a drive centre, is that it eliminates the possibility of eccentricity, which can arise if you use a mandrel, by the very fact that you need to be able to slide the pen blanks onto the mandrel, so there's got to be a certain amount of play for that to happen. And this eliminates that. Obviously, in a production sense, if you're doing a lot of pens, it can slow your times down. But if you're a perfectionist, or you don't like the fact that there is a slight eccentricity, which is to the average person wouldn't see it anyway. But if you are particular about these things, it may be something to consider, especially if you're doing a one-off pen as a special present to someone. Some more super glue here, I'm afraid, to fill in the fractured pockets of the elm. The separate gold-plated ring which comes with the kit to some extent dictates the diameter of the pen. Well, I don't want to conform to that size. I want to create a thicker pen, so I'm going to make my own ring out of contrasting timber, which in this case is sycamore, and see how it looks. For those of you who have a keen eye, if you spotted the drill, you saw it was slightly wavering. And when I assembled the pen later on, I found that the ring that I'd made was slightly eccentric, which showed up on the finished pen. So I'd have to make a second ring that run true, that was perfectly concentric. The ring I'm making here has to be the same diameter as the biggest end of the pen blanks, but the thickness has to be identical to the gold-plated ring which comes with the kit. No, I'm not using a smaller drill. It's just to catch the ring as I part it off. I didn't do a good job here. I did it too quickly and left some surplus wood on near the hole, which I had to later clear off with a chisel. Bad workmanship there, impatience taking over. The hole that was left in the sycamore when I had parted the ring off acted as a nice support for the pen, as I am now using the lathe as a clamp to press the insert into the front of the pen. To be on the safe side, I'm just pressing the insert into the depression on the surface of it and no further. And not up to the depression, just up to the end of the brass part of the insert, and then I'll test it for a distance later. I always err on the side of caution here. It's better to not press the insert in as much as needed first time out, because sometimes they do vary and you can end up where you've pressed it too much in and too much of the nib is exposed. So trial and error here until you get to the right distance, so be patient. Well, here it is, the last part of the assembly of the pen. Just doing the cap now with the clip. It's the slope, the increase in diameter isn't too big, so the clip isn't really so strong that it can't be prized apart when you put it in your pocket. Obviously the thicker the pen, the more pressure's put on the clip, but this is quite satisfactory. I've decided to make another sycamore ring to be sandwiched between the front and the back of the pen. The previous one I did was a slight eccentricity, so I've decided to use the hole and use the hole as the basis to do the turning. So I'm making a little jig to hold the ring, and then I'll produce the correct size. As you can see, the hole is not dead center of the ring, so that's why I've decided to do a new one. The trouble with brad point drills is that the projection from the drill chuck holding them is too great, and they tend to waver a little bit, and because it's so thin is this ring, by the time the edges of the drill bit into the wood, it was already eccentric. So I'm using the hole itself pre-drilled and then turning afterwards, using the hole as the datum. I've just found a little bit of old scrap turnings that I had, just to apply pressure to the ring against the jig so that it won't stop turning when I take some wood off. Here I'm just making sure that the face of the ring is slightly concave so that the top edges of the ring, i.e. the outside diameter, doesn't show any gap as it mates up with the rest of the pen. Well, here it is, a pen made without the jigs and fixtures and accessories you can buy. Thanks for watching. Oh, by the way, if you want to look at the pen suppliers, I have some websites following this video. Bye.